Hello, hello. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, good morning. How's it going? You having a good day so
I'm doing
far?
well. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, everything's going well. Just woke up a couple hours ago, but yeah, overall doing well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great to hear that. So you'll be joining with this account, right? Is there anyone else joining as well, or?
I think it'll just be me. It's completely fine.
Okay, okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Awesome. So I see we have quite a few people tuned in. So why don't we get started? So first of all, welcome everyone to join our AMA space today. We've got a very, very exciting one. And it's all about ZUNO on ZetaChain, all the liquidity and one universal DEX. We're very excited to dive into ZUNO on ZetaChain, get to know a little bit about the project, and see what we can all look forward to. And joining us from ZUNO is Alex Kim, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of ZUNO. Firstly, welcome Alex to join us, and we're very, very excited to have this conversation and get to know more about ZUNO. So, before we get started, I'd like to let everyone know that we have an additional $100 worth of Zeta tokens to give away for the AMA live participants. So just make sure to like, share this Twitter space, and drop your questions in the comments section below. And after we finish our main part, I'll be picking five of the most interesting questions for Alex Kim to answer. So, yeah, let's get started. So, first of all, welcome Alex to the show, and it would be great to hear a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Zuna as well.
Awesome. Yeah, well, great to be here. My name's Alex. I've been in crypto for about 8, 9 years now. Yeah, almost 9 years. I started off just trading in the space. I think it was a really good opportunity. From there, I did some of my own startups in mostly DeFi oriented. So I did some DeFi insurance startups, some lending protocols, some worked, some didn't. And then I also did some NFT gaming startups with some friends in the last cycle as well, when gaming was pretty much the hype of everything. Afterwards, I moved over to Binance, where I was at Binance for about 2 years. I was across BNB chain. Um, I was across some other parts of Binance as well, just doing BD work for them and some other roles. Um, yeah, and then afterwards, I was contracted with a couple DeFi startups for about 6 months. So I was working with 3 or 4 different DeFi startups to really optimize some of their partnerships and doing some other initiatives for them as well before I joined ZetaChain. So what Zuno is we're pretty much a cross-chain DEX built on ZetaChain. So think of us as like door swap or chain flip if you're familiar. A user on Zuno can swap between Bitcoin to Solana, or even from Bitcoin to SUI, Bitcoin to any chain, and vice versa. You can swap from Solana to Bitcoin without wrapping and without bridging. So we don't work with any third-party bridges. There's none of that on Zuno. We don't wrap our assets as well. Everything is completely native. And this is all built from the Zeta Chain protocol as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. So now let's dive a little bit deeper into Zuno, right? So, um, how do you think Zuno sets itself apart from other DEXs in the ecosystem?
So there's a couple dexes on. I mean, it's a pretty simple answer, I would say. So if you're on dexes on other ecosystems, you can only do swaps between only the same chain. So if you're using a DEX on Polygon, for example, you can only swap between Polygon assets, right? If you're a DEX on, I don't know, Avalanche, you can only swap on Avalanche assets. However, the difference between Zuno is that you can do swaps between any asset from any chain to any other asset on any chain in just one single click. So right now there are bridges, right? There's Li-Fi, there's a cross, there's C-Bridge, etc. But then it's a pretty confusing user experience, in my opinion. You always have to connect more than you have to always have a couple wallets. It's a third-party solution, etc. So we just decided to combine it all, and we just said, hey, why don't we just build a cross-chain DEX where it also has its own liquidity pools, and you can swap between any of these assets from any chain. There's no wrapping, and there's no bridging. And the key differentiator is there's no bridging So the fees to swap from one chain to another is significantly cheaper than what's offered on other dexes and other bridges as well. If you also compare us to ChainFlip, which is another cross-chain DEX as well, you're limited in terms of what assets you can swap, as well as what chains are available. So on ZUNO, there's a greater number of chains that a user can swap from, and a greater number of assets that a user can swap from without bridging as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a very clear answer. Thank you. So moving a little bit deeper, right? A lot of users have been, wanting to know about what's in store as well for the future. So can you share a little bit about, the upcoming roadmap that you have for Zuno, and what are the priorities for the team right now?
Absolutely. So a lot of this is going to be influenced by the ZetaChain protocol, and I think ZetaChain is doing a really great job of building the underlying protocol to enable some of these great one-click user experiences without wrapping or without bridging. Across ZetaChain's apps in the ecosystem in general, there's no bridging. And I keep on saying there's no bridging because it's really important that there's no wrapping assets either. It's just a single click UI UX. So and this goes into what Zuno is going to do as well, but some of the other apps on ZetaChain ecosystem allows users to deposit native Bitcoin to mint a CDP stablecoin on ZetaChain in a single click. You sign in with your Bitcoin wallet, you approve the transaction, and you mint out a stablecoin on ZetaChain. Or you can use Bitcoin or Solana as well to deposit into yield opportunities or lending markets on different chains as well in one click. So the way that Zuno right now is just a simple cross-chain DEX. But ZetaChain provides the tools and the infrastructure to allow us to compete against other big players as well. So, for example, one of the things that we have in the roadmap is to introduce intent models. So, w- even though we are relatively fast right now, we want to introduce intent models into the Zuno protocol so that a user can do stablecoin transfers between one chain to another in less than 1 second, with very, very, very little slippage as well, competing against all the big dexes or cross-chain dexes like ChainFlip and DoorSwap as well. We're confident that we're able to do this. And in the future as well, there are other opportunities to involve earning features, to tap into other yield aggregator products in the ecosystem to enable that into the homepage of Zuno. So as soon as the user swaps into an asset, we'll find you an earning opportunity, and then you can deposit into the highest available one. And we also have some other AI features that are going to be enabled as well as part of Zuno as well. I feel like it's a given that most of the user experiences enabled by ZetaChain is a single click UI UX, but we want to take it a step further and do something that's convenient for our users as well.
Awesome, thank you, Alex. So I wanted to dive into one of those points that you mentioned. So one of the key product features for Zuno is to do, native BTC swaps between, chains and other assets, right? So how are you enabling this? And could you maybe explain again, like, well, why is it different from Tor Swap or Chainflip?
Absolutely. So this goes into ZetaChain protocol. So ZetaChain, the way that they're able to connect to Bitcoin is really interesting. So there's a custody address on Bitcoin, right? And ZetaChain has its own smart contract layer and its own validator sets. So this is very different from a two-way bridge like other fake Bitcoin L2 solutions that we tried as well. Um, Essentially, when the user deposits one Bitcoin into native Bitcoin by connecting their Bitcoin wallet, the validators on ZetaChain pretty much say, hey, Gate IO here deposited one Bitcoin. ZetaChain protocol mints out an equivalent version of Bitcoin. And when you're doing a swap to Solana, let's say, it swaps through Zuno, which is us. That equivalent amount in Solana gets burned, and then native Solana is withdrawn from the custody address on Solana back to the user wallet. However, everything here that I talked about, all the complexity of the minting, the burning, custody address, MPC TSS, observer signers, validators, etc., the user doesn't have to care about that. You don't even have to know about that. It's just a single click swap between one chain to another using that protocol I just talked about. So the way that we're different from some of our competitors like DoorSwap or ChainFlip in this case is one is chain availability. Right now, chain flip is very limited to the number of chains that they're available on and the number of assets that a user can swap. The advantage to ZetaChain is because we have our own smart contract layer, and one of the things that we did with ZUNO is we tapped into other aggregators. So the core team comes from Dodo Exchange, by the way. So ZUNO DEX is built by the Dodo Exchange products. And we were the second largest DEX on BNB chain the last cycle. We processed over 2 billion in transaction volume for BNB chain. One of the things that we did that highlights us that's different from our competitors is we can tap into other aggregators because of what ZetaChain enables with their smart contract layer. That's something that other projects can't do because they don't have a smart contract layer. So it's very limited to what assets users can swap into. But if you want to swap, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, AI agents on base, like ADM, Tibber, or whatever, and you want to swap that into Bitcoin, you can completely do that on Zuno. It's very easy. Any user can do it right now. So yeah, I think we have a value add competitive advantage to enable these swaps.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Very clearly stated what your advantages are. Thank you for that. So I've seen this question pop up in a lot of our comments as well. So this, this infrastructure. So how is it used within the broader Zeta chain ecosystem?
Sure. So every chain has a DEX, right? BNB Pancake Swap, ETH Uniswap, Arbitrum Quick Swap, or Uniswap now, right? All the protocols on each of those chains use the DEX. It's a given. Zeta Chain's apps are all cross-chain. So even an example of Amana, which is another app that we're working with very closely, a user can connect their Bitcoin wallet or even their Solana wallet right now, and they can deposit into lending markets on Aave, let's say on Base. And if a user wants to deposit one Bitcoin or one Solana into this lending market on Aave to earn, I don't know, 10%, let's say, it's a single click deposit. There's no bridging, there's no multiple transactions that you have to do. It's a single click. So what happens and where we come into play is when the user deposits that one Solana, it gets swapped into USDC through Zuno, us, and then Zeta Chain Protocol handles the rest to withdraw the USDC to the user, and Zeta Chain can write smart contracts on other chains as well. So Zeta Chain will withdraw that USDC back to the user, but then also deposit on behalf of the user to that USDC Aave lending market on Ethereum, Base, BNB chain, whatever, in one single click. No bridging, no multiple tabs, in one single click. All of the swaps being routed through Zuno DEX. So all of the cross-chain applications on ZetaChain will rely on Zuno to do all the cross-chain swaps for the applications.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. Very, very clear as to how you guys are doing this and how it helps the broader ecosystem as well. And now moving on to the final question, right? So, in your opinion, what do you think is next for, DEXs and DeFi? Are we seeing more, intent-based or RFQ or Uniswap X models? It would be nice to hear a little bit about your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Sure. So what's next for DEXs and DeFi, in my opinion, is we're going to see a lot more centralized solutions. And the reason why I say this is, unfortunately, the crypto product UI UX still sucks to this day. And centralized solutions are the best solutions to onboard the next billions of users into Web3. You're already seeing them now. A lot of these intense requests for quote or other protocols are all using market makers to transfer assets from one user to another directly from centralized exchanges. Users don't really know about this because they don't because most users don't care to dig a bit deeper into the protocols themselves. But we already have centralized solutions that are being disguised as decentralized solutions. What I see becoming next for DEXs and DeFi as a whole is how we can speed things up and how we can enable direct user transfers. We're even seeing this in most bridges as well, where they're directly sending it from a centralized exchange to the user because they want to compete on speed and cost. right? Decentralized solutions will always be more expensive and they will always be more timely. I think I just want to be very honest on that. So for us, at least in the roadmap for DEXs and DeFi, we want to enable more intent-based solutions. I mean, this is where everything is going. 1inch, other aggregators, they're pretty much all centralized solutions now with intent models and request for quote models, whatever. The user doesn't know it, but now all the users are using them now. So it's obvious for us that we have to catch up. In the future, I do see something with hooks, Uniswap before style hooks, as well as some other innovations. But yeah, in general, I see for DEX and DeFi, we're going to start seeing a lot more centralized solutions for DEXs specifically. And for the broader DeFi ecosystem as well, I think it's mostly just stable coins.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that very clear answer on that as well. So now we've covered the main questions, and I see that we have over 1,000 questions submitted to answer. So I've actually just picked a couple of questions which I think are pretty interesting and would be awesome for Alex to answer as well. So the first one I have is for from Reza 271590. What so the question goes, what are Zuno's long-term, goals for expanding its ecosystem, and might there be certain targets like possibly integrating additional blockchains?
Yeah, so ZetaChain, this all depends on ZetaChain, but we work with them quite closely to give them some recommendations based on what we're seeing from different ecosystems. So they just recently integrated Sui. We're seeing a lot of movement on Sui, specifically DEX volume as well as stablecoin transfers. So the team integrated Sui. And now ZetaChain has Tong coming up as well. So that's great. I think after Sui and Tong, there's going to be no additional chains, and I think this is pretty wise. The ZetaChain team is pretty small. They're all US based as well. Most of it is US based. And honestly, with the team size of 30 people, we need to focus on how we can enable more product features rather than chain availability. The bet is that a lot of these chains, I mean, from the Zuno perspective as well, a lot of these chains are not going to exist after the bull run. A lot of them will just become dead. So we want to put our bet and consolidate it into the couple chains that we think are going to continue to have sustained volume and making sure that we're able to provide value in terms of product features and transaction volume and transaction count between these chains that we think are going to make it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. And now we have a next question from Tolga Ozek, and that is, will Zuno be partnering with other projects in the near future?
Yeah, so just said it previously as well. We're going to partner, we already partner with our ecosystem apps. We're more than happy to partner with other aggregators and other ecosystem applications outside the ZetaChain ecosystem as well. So yeah, just we have our DMs open. You can always just reach out to us if you have any proposals. But yeah, I looked through it pretty seriously. I think if there's a value add on both sides, we can definitely make something work out.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. And the next question is from Kenzie. So this question goes, how does Zuno ensure near zero slippage during trades?
So there's a couple things that we do. We have something called private market making pools, and it's pretty much it's like a combination of different AMM style pools just in one PMM pool. So for example, we did a USDC from Sol, USDC swap together. Um, so that's one. We set the fee tier very low, and the management position of the specific pool is less than 0.5%. So a user can swap, let's say, $2,000 between these two specific chains with USDC with very near zero slippage. So if you want to swap $1,000, you'll most likely get, depending on the rate at the time, 9,999.99, or depending on some cases where if the liquidity is imbalanced, you can get 1,001, for example. So yeah, everything is pretty much near zero slippage, and we also have stable swap pools as well, with a very slow fee tier and tight management range as well to enable other stable coin transfers between other chains as well for the time being. But again, we are also introducing intents as well in the next several weeks, where we're going to have our own intent solver model to also enable near zero slippage transfers between those different chains, as well as faster transfer speed as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. And now we'll move on to the next question from Denison. So, question goes: marketing is a central element for every successful project, right? So, what would you say is Zuno's strategy for attracting new users and keeping them long term?
The DEX space is very competitive. However, in my opinion, if we're not focusing on trading routes and if we're not focusing on what we enable, then we're not going to make it in terms of go to market and marketing, just being very transparent with you. If the product has no value add, like most DEXs on other ecosystems, like DEXs that try to compete with QuickSwap or Uniswap on other chains, if you have no value add, you cannot compete no matter how much marketing you do, period. The value add for us is that in the cross-chain DEX space, there's maybe a couple bridges and a couple only ChainFlip and ThorSwap there. So we have a very limited number of competitors in the space. In terms of go-to-market and marketing strategies that we do, we already enable a lot more routes than what our competitors enable already. So for us, the marketing strategy is to make sure that we're keeping up with market trends, right? So if there's a new meme coin or something that's like X stocks, meme coins, or anything that's happening, we always want to make sure that we promote to our users what other routes are available besides what you can do on bridges or other dexes. For example, right now, Bitcoin users, you can swap from Bitcoin to an AI agent on Base. You just can't. We can do that. You can swap from Bitcoin to X stocks on Arbitrum. You can't do that, but we can. We can do it in a single click. So we'll promote routes. Second is product features. I think that's what's more important. Attracting product or creating product features that it's going to attract trading volume and transaction count. And then third is how can we do partnerships with each chains? So we're talking with a number of different chains right now, given our previous relationships with them. And how do we get more involved within their ecosystems? How do we get their applications to use us? Because we can be available on any chain built on ZetaChain. And how can we be involved in those chains' ecosystem campaigns as well? It's a given for them, right? They can attract liquidity from all these other chains into their own chain if they want to as well. So we have a lot of flexibility and we have a lot to work with. And I think a lot of that has to do with our product value add and the opportunities that ZetaChain enables us to build.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. And now we've got the final question from for Brain, right? So his question goes, what capabilities or tools will the project have to support, algorithmic and high frequency trading strategies, especially given the importance of speed in perpetual markets?
Yeah, so I just want to say that we don't have plans to integrate perps right now. I think a lot of that is just going to go to Hyperliquid. We're just the DEX, man. For any sort of advanced trading strategies and such, we can put in limit orders and such. And we can certainly do some other swaps to make Bitcoin routes more efficient and more faster, like intense, or maybe there's dollar cost average swaps. But if you want to do high frequency trading and such, we're not a perp DEX.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And now we've come to the end of the session. It's been very, very informational. Alex, you've shared a lot, especially as to what Zuno is all about, the collaborations with Zeta Chain as well, and what we can look forward to in the near future. So, as a closing remark, is there something that you'd like to say to all the listeners, regarding Zuno?
Yeah, I think just go on zenodex.xyz if you're curious. You can use it right now. We just launched a week ago. It's a soft launch. So if you have any bugs, if there's any product issues that you're facing, please just join our Discord and socials and let us know. We want to make sure that the user experience is right for you. Yeah, I think everything is pretty straightforward.
Yes, it is indeed. Thank you very much, Alex, for sharing. And also for everyone listening, please make sure to give ZUNO a follow as well. Make sure to check out their decks and enjoy it as well. So once again, thank you very much, Alex, for joining us, and thank you to all the listeners. And make sure to give ZUNO a try as well. All right. So bye bye. Thank you.
All right, bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye bye.